We are just 1 week away from the Bengals kicking off the season. What should we expect from the Orange and Black in 2020? We ask Ben Beatty. Plus,
I'm trying to get him back in shape, and he's trying to be my partner to help me stay in shape.
nothing like a little brotherly love, how two bros are helping each other back to the wrestling goals. And the Reds continue to fight for a playoff spot, but time is of the essence. What Mark Sheldon has to say about team frustrations.
From WCPO 9 Sports, this is Sports of All Sorts.
What up? Welcome to Sports of All Sorts. I'm Reggie Wilson. With the NFL returning next week and most of all of our favorite sports happening right now, this is as normal as it's felt in quite some time in the world of sports. So we'll get into some of that tonight, but we start the show remembering one of baseball's all-time greats. Former Reds pitcher Tom Seaver died Wednesday of Lewy body dementia and COVID-19, largely known for his time with the Mets. Seaver left New York for Cincinnati in 1977. Our station was there on that historic night when he pitched his first no-hitter at Riverfront Stadium. Seaver, lovingly known as Tom Terrific, threw more than 3,600 strikeouts during his 20 years in the big leagues. And the Reds issued a statement about Seaver's passing. It says in part, Tom Seaver was one of the best and most inspirational pitchers to play the game. And we are grateful that part of Tom's Hall of Fame career included time with the Reds. Another Reds legend, Pete Rose, who was friends with Tom, says there will never be another Tom Seaver.
He was one of the most competitive guys I ever played with. As pitchers, you have lions and you have lambs. Lions are the guys that get you out. Lambs are the guys you get hits off of.
Seaver also played with the White Sox and Red Sox. His final game was in 1986. Rest in peace to the Hall of Famer. The Reds added 2 high-quality beers this week, which along with Keenan Singleton's makes me very, very jealous. Anyway, the team traded for pitcher Archie Bradley and outfielder Brian Goodwin. Bradley is a welcome addition to the bullpen that's been struggling this year. He was the closer for the Diamondbacks this season. Josh Van Meter gets sent to Arizona in return, and Goodwin comes over from the Angels. Bengals running back Joe Mixon is going to be around for a while. He signed a 4-year extension Wednesday, running through the 2024 season. The contract is worth $48 million. Mixon is heading into his 4th season with the Bengals, and he feels the signing is one that should make the team contenders for years to come.
Just like a dream come true, being able to sign my 2nd contract. It felt like I'm a rookie again, man. So, just that happy feeling and being a part of something special that we got in the making is going to be great, and I'm definitely excited for it.
He's an energizer bunny. He's jumping up and down and running his mouth at people and having fun playing football. I mean, he loves playing football. He's everything you want from that regard, and he goes out and does his job. Anytime a player gets paid in this league, I get excited for him.
All right, let's go back to the Reds, wrapping up against the Pirates on the road, going for the series win today. Top third, Votto on first. Nick Castellanos blasts off. Straight up power to center. His 12th this season gives the Reds a 2-0 lead. Those are the only runs they scored today, though. Bottom 9th, Raisel Iglesias trying to close it out with a 2-1 lead, but he gives up a base hit to plate the tying run. And it's 2-2. Then it goes from bad to worse. 2 on, Gonzalez flies out to right, but it's enough to bring the runner home. The throw from Akiyama not even close. And the Pirates walk it off. Reds go down 3-2. Off day tomorrow, but David Bell, what's going on?
You're not able to add on extra runs. A lot of times it comes back to get you. And we know from being on the other side when we're able to do that, it really helps out our bullpen. So, guys are doing everything they possibly can to, to battle and score runs, and we just weren't able to do it today.
Joining me now is MLB.com Reds beat writer Mark Sheldon. Mark, how you doing?
Doing great, Reggie. How you doing?
I'm good. Probably doing a little better than the Reds. So, Mark, how devastating was this loss for them today?
It wasn't just today's loss. It was the 1-run loss they had on the second game of the doubleheader Friday. This was a series they really needed to win, and the fact that they only split it is pretty poor. They should have taken 3 or 4, if not swept. And now with 19 games left and they're 5 games under 500, that's not a good spot to be in. They're going to have to really dig in and do some damage now in the next 3 weeks. They get to play teams in their division that are ahead of them, so they do have a chance, and I believe they're only 2 games out of a playoff spot. So it's not over by any sense, but man, they really had a chance to do some damage against the worst team in baseball.
Yikes. So many expectations for this team coming into the season. Now they're 18-23, like you said. Why is this team so inconsistent this year?
That's a great question. Most of it comes down to the offense. It's felt like at times where they really are clicking, but they just can't seem to get many long innings put together, and much of their scoring is coming from the home run. About 60% of their runs are scoring via the home run that's leading the major leagues. But if they're not getting a home run, they're not getting much offense, and that's the problem they're having right now. The bullpen had been much better until today, and actually they were pitching pretty well until the 9th inning. The rotation has been pretty good, but the offense, especially with how much they invested in it, it should be much better. One issue they may have, of course, is they haven't had their entire starting 9 much of the season, whether guys have been on the disabled injured list or they've been away or have not been feeling great. That's been a problem, but especially guys like Castellanos and Moustakas and Akiyama, those 3 guys they signed, none of them have really clicked for an extended period other than Castellanos early in the season. And even though he's got 12 homers and less than 40 games, that's a really good number, but they need a lot more from the rest of the lineup.
And Mark, I'll get you out of here with this one. What's your gut on them making the playoffs? Like you said, 19 more games to go. What are they going to do?
Well, based on the current trajectory, I don't see how they can make it. If they keep going, here and there, what they really just need to do is get hot. And if they can get hot, all that matters is they get to get in the playoffs. It doesn't have to be first place. It doesn't even have to be second place. They just have to get in. And a lot of people were saying that with that lineup and some of the talent they have in the rotation and the bullpen, that this team could be very dangerous in the postseason. But you can't be dangerous in the postseason if you don't make the postseason. And right now they're on the outside looking in.
Well, Mark, we will continue to keep our fingers crossed for some postseason baseball around here, but I appreciate you always for taking the time and your perspective.
Thanks, Reggie.
All right, I don't know about you, but siblings are some of God's greatest gifts for those of us who have them like myself. But they can also be our greatest competition while doing life together. Coming up, how 2 brothers are helping each other bounce back from the same injury. Plus,
certainly feel like we're making great progress and excited to get some good work done this week.
You heard the man. It's game week for the Bengals, how the team is preparing for the first game of the season. Welcome back. The pandemic canceled the 2020 College Wrestling National Championships, but 2 Southeast Indiana brothers plan to be healthy and ready for the next one. When you have a brother, you always have a friend, but also some friendly competition.
All year long, it's me and him going, who's the best one?
Milan High School grads John and Jacob Roerick are 1.5 years apart, and they've been wrestling since the 7th grade.
We used to have wrestling tournaments in the living room.
John ended up at Norwich University in Vermont. Last fall, while wrestling with a teammate, he tore the meniscus in his right knee, ending his season.
We get back to the wrestling locker room, and he looks at me and he goes, dude, your knee's huge. So it was like twice the size.
Then just a few months later,
all I could describe it as was a popping sensation in my knee.
Only 6 matches into his freshman year at the University of Indianapolis, Jacob endured the same injury.
I wasn't even wrestling. I was playing backyard baseball, just running, when it finally just let out and wouldn't go back.
The 2 had surgery 4 months apart.
To happen that soon, we were kind of shocked.
Kind of helped that I knew what his brother had gone through.
Dr. Robert Rolfe at Beacon Orthopedics performed both surgeries.
Before they get back to the mat, you got to make sure that thing is healed, because if they try to bend their knee and they put pressure on that meniscus before it's healed, they can re-tear it.
The pandemic allowed the brothers time to fully heal, and now they're lifting each other up.
Jacob just got released not too long ago for his running and working out, so me and him do a lot more outside workouts. I'm trying to get him back in shape, and he's trying to be my partner to help me stay in shape.
A little brotherly love on their way back to the mat.
high school, I worried about competitions and awards, and I got to college, like, it's not about that. It's about going out there and just enjoying it every day, having fun with it.
All right, let's go back to the gridiron. Big storyline this week, Middletown made their return to the field for the first time since overturning the fall sports suspension, taking on Fairfield Friday night. Middy's first play from scrimmage, senior running back Josh Bryant goes 70 yards to the house, but Middletown goes down in the first game of the season, 35-13. Another jam-packed week of high school football, and I'm joined now by high school sports insider Mike Dyer. Mike, let's start with Middletown. I know you talked to school officials leading up to Friday night about the challenges of getting back to playing games. How grateful does that community feel?
Well, I was talking to athletic director J.D. Faust this past week, and he says, this is just incredible to get the green light, not only to get to practice, but also obviously to get to compete. I know the game Friday night against Fairfield, from a football standpoint, didn't go the way they wanted on the scoreboard, but certainly just to be able to get out there, and they have a very talented squad. Running back Josh Bryant, they have some other players on defense that make an impact as well. So I think going forward, I know they were looking for a week 6 opponent late last week, and I know they're excited about their game against Kings this week.
Talawanda got their first win over Harrison in 25 years. You talked to head coach Larry Cox after. What did he have to say about the feat?
He was thrilled. He was on cloud 9, Reggie. Larry has been at this for a long time, coaching high school football. Obviously, a lot of people know about his time at Lakota West and the success he had there. But second season at Talawanda, a program that has struggled in recent years. But, boy, he's really vowed to turn this program around, and the Braves did that. Had some excellent plays on Friday night. 17-7 victory over Harrison in a big Southwest Ohio Conference meeting. So 2-0 game, looking ahead to a big Butler County matchup against Ross this week. So got to be happy for Larry and everybody over there at Talawanda, because I know they're very proud of what's going on right now.
Mike, it's a strange season. Decrease in spectators, more premier matchups early in the season. We've already seen history made with Colerain losing a conference game. What are your observations after 2 weeks in Ohio?
It's so early to say right now, Reggie, because, we're only a third of the way season. It sounds weird to say that because we only have 4 weeks left of the regular season. But, if you want to pick out some teams, obviously look at Lakota West and the GMC, what they're doing. Look at what Fairfield's doing with a freshman quarterback. Obviously, Middletown returning. Cincinnati Public Schools still on that pause. I think everybody's still waiting for them. When are they going to be able to play? A big question mark is when everybody has to decide whether they opt in or not later this month. It's really the middle of this September for the postseason. Will Cincinnati Public Schools be represented in the high school football playoffs? Everybody makes the playoffs, but still you have to have that opportunity to compete. So that's probably one of the biggest questions that I have so far. Obviously, a lot of the GCL South, you look at LaSalle, reigning Division II state champions, certainly have faced a tough schedule when you go with Elder and St. X back-to-back to open up the season. So still a lot to be kind of figured out here as we go, but I think it's been exciting. It's been fun. We've had some great matchups, as you mentioned. So if you're a high school football fan, certainly take advantage of watching all these games, whether you're not able to get to the stadium, but maybe you could watch it online, follow our coverage on WCPO.
Kentucky football is back this week. How excited are our NKY schools to be able to play?
I talked to Beechwood coach Noel Rash this past Friday, and he really was emotional. He got teary-eyed when he talked about this opportunity to get back at it on the gridiron. It's been a couple of weeks, obviously 4 weeks of practicing and having this delayed start to the season, but boy, oh boy, when you get a chance to get out there and start the regular season, we all know not every state has had that opportunity. I think Noel and a lot of those coaches in Northern Kentucky are very, very grateful for this chance because they know it is not a given each and every week. We've talked about that ad nauseum in Ohio, but certainly it's not to be taken for granted, and I think these coaches are ready to embrace that opportunity.
Well, we'll be there to check it out on Friday. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time.
Always great to chat with you, Reggie. Thank you.
Coming up, we're talking pro football. Ben Baby and I get you ready for Bengals Week 1. Welcome back. For all those Bengals fans hoping to see Joe Burrow in person this year, you may just get your wish, just not for Week 1. Saturday, Governor DeWine announced that the Bengals will be able to have up to 6,000 fans in attendance for home games against the Jaguars on October 4th and the Battle of Ohio against the Browns on October 25th. Masks will be required and no more than 1,500 spectators will be allowed on each side of Paul Brown Stadium. And the Bengals released a statement on this decision saying, quote, "The Bengals are thrilled with the prospect of having fans at our home games and will reach out shortly to season ticket members and fans with more specifics." And the Bengals cut the roster down to 53 players Saturday afternoon. Among the notable cuts are quarterbacks Brandon Allen and Jake Dogala. Allen was signed to the practice squad today, and cornerback Torrey McTyer, who was also cut, was re-signed today to the 53-man roster. Wide receiver Stanley Morgan Jr. and former XFL star running back Jaquez Patrick, cut yesterday, signed to the practice squad today. And joining me again to talk about the Bengals is ESPN's Bengals reporter Ben Baby. Ben, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, Joe, Reggie, how are you doing?
Good, good. Now, as I mentioned, the roster is down to 53. How good do the Bengals feel about this team headed into week one?
You know, I think when you look at the cuts and you see what they've done, I think they feel really good about this roster. And you think about it, this is a roster they've had, so much time to work with. They've had an entire season to get a feel for what these guys are like, as opposed to last year when the coaching staff and head coach Zach Taylor were really just trying to figure out who exactly they had on this roster. So I think when you look at the cuts, there weren't really too many surprises. I think going down to 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster is probably the smart move when you consider who you have in your top 2, and especially when the number 1 guy is your top overall pick in Joe Burrow. And I think it allows for more flexibility at other spots that you may need, as we've seen with getting an offensive guard and now a cornerback, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, a move that I expect will be official on Monday.
All right, and Ben, how difficult will the opener be after not getting any live action against another team in the preseason, especially for a first-time starting quarterback like Joe Burrow?
You know, it's going to be really fascinating to see what this looks like come Sunday. As we saw in the college games, some of these games and teams aren't really executing at the level that we're used to seeing at the beginning of the season. Now, maybe that's because of the COVID and the situation. And so if that's the case at the college game, what will it look like in the NFL when you haven't had any tackling, when you've really only played your own teammates, you haven't had any preseason games to really get sharp? And so, it's going to be curious to see what that product is going to look like. And I wouldn't be surprised if on that week 1, you're seeing a little more sloppy performance from guys that you wouldn't normally see, and it may get more refined as the season gets going. So I think, for Joe Burrow, he's going to really have an interesting challenge ahead of him. He's not going to be able to, simulate these passing windows aside from a couple of scrimmages and some 11-on-11 drills in practice. So, we'll see how well he adjusts. And really, that's what the whole 2020 season is going to be about. How well is this rookie going to adapt to the NFL, and what position are they going to be in at the end of the season in terms of pushing for a playoff berth?
All right, Ben, let's switch it up. If anyone follows you on Twitter, they know how big you are on fantasy football. Now, look, I went out like Elway and retired after a championship a couple years ago. But for those who still play, which Bengals do you want, or do they want, on their fantasy team?
Listen, the Baby Bunch has had some rough years. We've had a couple good years, but we're in some rebuilding. I think the Baby Bunch is solid. For my squad, I drafted Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd. I think if you're in a PPR league, so points per reception, Tyler Boyd has been phenomenal. I think that Joe Burrow and Boyd will have a really good connection this year, and Boyd has kind of been that safety blanket for Andy Dalton or Ryan Finley or Jeff Driscoll or whoever the last few years. And so I expect that to continue to be the case. Joe Mixon will probably be the highest Bengal off the board. In terms of drafting Mixon, you really need to look at if the Bengals are going to be better in the red zone, and will Mixon get some opportunities in the pass game? And I think both of those things could really decide whether you want to burn a first-round pick or a second-round pick on Mixon and running backs, as we know, are premium. Now, the real question mark is going to be what happens with A.J. Green in a lot of these fantasy drafts. We all know what A.J. can do on the field, but, I had some fantasy owners tell me that they were a little upset with A.J.'s performance over the last couple of years because he just hasn't been healthy. So just like the Bengals are hoping Green can stay healthy, I think if you're going to draft A.J. in the middle rounds of your draft, you're going to hope that he's able to stay on the field for enough games to where he's worth it. And we know that when he's on the field, he's as productive as anybody in the NFL.
Ben Baby, how do you like that? Fantasy expert, ESPN Bengals beat reporter as well. man of many talents. Thanks so much, Ben.
Hey, no problem. And if you win on my picks, feel free to Venmo me. I'll give you that information later on. Come and find me.
That sounds good. Thanks again, Ben. So I want to hear from you. We are a week away from the Bengals home opener and the debut of Joe Burrow in the jungle. And so I want to know, how many wins do you think Burrow leads the Bengals to this season? Tweet me at Reggie Wilson TV and make sure to use the hashtag SOAS. All right, we'll be right back to wrap up the show. Well, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun, but we gotta go. I'd like to thank my guests Mark Sheldon, Mike Dyer, and Ben Baby for joining me tonight. And thank you to my village who helped me put this all together. Thank you for watching. Let's do it again next Sunday. Until then, have a good night and a very blessed week.